All right, everybody, the next topic that we're going to cover is African American civil rights, and we are going to talk about the beginnings of those rights today. So the first thing, let's go all the way back to Reconstruction, the very first unit that we talked about. There are many attempts to help promote the civil rights that were denied to African Americans at the time. One of those things is the 13th Amendment passed in 1865 and the 14th Amendment in 1868. Those do try to help. Which are these amendments again? The 13th Amendment outlaws slavery. The 14th Amendment talks about the equal protection, and any citizen or any person that is born in the United States or is naturalized is entitled to the rights that a citizen has. So what are the white people going to do post-Civil War? The ways around the constitutional amendments are poll taxes, for example. You would have to pay a tax before you could vote. So be a citizen, register, pay your poll tax, and vote in Virginia. This says this year we elect Virginia to the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and 100 members of the House of Delegates. To vote, you must have paid poll tax by May 4th, 1957, and be registered. So you can see this is going on way after the Civil War, well into the mid-20th century. We also have the KKK. This is going to go in waves of very high membership, and then it's going to kind of die out, and then it's going to come back. You can see there in the background the Capitol building. At one point, they marched 60,000 strong down Pennsylvania Avenue, and this is very intimidating to the African-American population. More ways around the Constitution. Literacy tests that are commonly given to African Americans. This one in particular is from Alabama. You can see here, can the President of the United States be impeached? If you are illiterate, you may have no idea what impeached even means. FBI stands for what? And you can see it's already filled in there, Federal Bureau of Investigation. So the problem with these things, with the poll tax, with the literacy test, is white people were not always literate either. So the whole goal here was to franchise or give the right to vote to all the white people while disenfranchising or taking the vote away from African American people. Well, the way to do that ultimately is institute a grandfather clause. If your grandfather voted, then you could also vote too. And that was a big thing, because if 1885, your grandfather, go back to two generations, your grandfather was more than likely a slave, therefore you could not vote. And if you go on the flip side of that to the white population in 1885 or even 1900, your grandfather was probably a free white man and could vote. So, what comes next? Commonly referred to as the Jim Crow laws or the Jim Crow South, this is going to come after 1875. We have the Civil Rights Act of 1875 that does get passed, which is going to state every person that has the right to use public facilities, including hotels, restaurants, railroads, and all of the like. The problem is, it's declared unconstitutional in 1883 by an all-white Supreme Court, and the reason that is not just because they're racist, some of them probably were, but hotels, restaurants, and railroads and businesses like that are not public. They are privately owned businesses. Hotels are private, restaurants are private, railroad are privately owned by individuals. So the 14th Amendment, according to the Supreme Court, protected citizens from states, not from private individuals. So if you're talking about a state park or a beach, then yes, those were private, or those were public rather, and you would be covered under the Civil Rights Act of 1875. Where a lot of people believe that this is all going to start is the Plessy Ferguson decision. Homer Plessy is 1/8 black. Okay, and you can kind of read this. June 7th, 1892, Homer Plessy was removed from the East Louisiana Railroad train and arrested by Detective C.C. Kane at the corner of Royal and Press Street. He was charged with violating the 1890 Louisiana Separate Car Act that separated railroad passengers by race. This was an ongoing thing in the South. This is going on all over the South and actually expanding pretty rapidly. So in 1896, his case is going to be brought to the Supreme Court in the first post-Reconstruction use of the 14th Amendment's equal protection provision. Unfortunately, it's going to be upheld until 1954. You can see that at the bottom with the Brown v. Board of Education, which we'll talk about in the next screencast. So the 1896 decision. Again, 1892, Homer Plessy gets jailed for sitting in the white rail car on the East Louisiana Railroad. Now, again, Homer Plessy could very easily pass for a white guy. He was only 1/8 black, but according to the one-drop rule, if you had 1 drop of African-American blood in you, that made you 100% black. Plessy refuses to move. He gets arrested, of course, appeals to the Supreme Court, and again, the Separate Car Act violated the 13th and 14th Amendment. However, they upheld the Louisiana statute on segregation, calling it constitutional. And what this is going to do, whether they wanted to do this initially or not, but it sets forth the precedent of separate but equal facilities for black and white people, and it allows them to happen this way as long as they are considered equal. Now, we've talked about it in the past being separate and equal, and the African American accommodations are not equal whatsoever. So it gets quickly blanketed across the South and many other places to cover many areas of public life: restaurants, theaters, restrooms, and public schools. And this is going to be the major downfall, and is simply going to be accepted from 1896 all the way through the first half of the 20th century until 1954, when Linda Brown's father does end up with the class action lawsuit in Topeka, Kansas, challenging the segregation in the school system. In 1954, that court case, Brown v. Board of Education, is ultimately going to start. It's going to crack that civil rights issue that we have not really seen since prior to 1896, and strikes down that separate but equal doctrine. So if you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. I'm out.